Hey guys, how are y'all? I'm great. Thank you for asking. So, it is 2 weeks from our last video. And just to recap, for some of you that were not here, this is going to be episode 4 of my leadership growth. My last video was talking about communication. I'm not going to get into that. If you want to watch it, I'm going to put it in the description box and you can go back and watch that one. And then in that video's description box, I put the other video, the last video, which is talking about leadership in general. That was kind of like, not necessarily my kickstart, but yes. So, now today, we're going to be talking about passion over purpose. Now, I know y'all would say that I should have flipped it and said purpose over passion, but I put passion over purpose to relate with y'all and to myself, because that's what I was doing my whole life, which I know I'm only 23 and y'all are like, whole life? You're not even a quarter yet. But what we do a lot in life is chase passion over purpose. And that's really what I wanted to talk about today, because to be a good leader, it would be wise. It would behoove you to know what your purpose is, right? And so I just want to tell y'all my personal story and how I found out my purpose and what it was like living a life where I wasn't doing the purpose that I was called to do. Living the life where I was just doing my passions and not aligning with what I should have been doing. So, I guess what I would say is that when you find out your purpose, you need to chase it head on. You need to, like a ram, you need to just boo with your purpose. Because I'm not saying it's going to make your life easier, but it's going to make your life easier. Like, just imagine spending years of your life only chasing your passions and you never even touch your purpose. And so you never live your life to the fullest extent that you were supposed to live it. That would suck, just to answer your question. I know for me personally, I have always chased my passions. I've always looked at people and I'm like, man, how do they know what they're supposed to be doing in life? Like, is somebody over here telling them? Like, how come God is telling them and not me? What's going on here? So I've always chased my passions growing up. Whether that be cheerleading, karate, the army. And so, and that's not to say that those things that I did growing up didn't shape me to who I am today. But those are just things that I've always done. And I've never gotten to live to my fullest extent because I was chasing my passion and not my purpose, which I'm going to get into, because I think for me, I'm very blessed, because in me chasing my passions, God has allowed my purpose to always shine through in every single thing that I was chasing. And that kind of led to me figuring out what my purpose was. It's actually quite it's funny, because it's like, man, I'm always been the type to like, God, I need you to speak to me. I can't hear you. And this is prior to me finding out that God speaks to you in other ways. It's not like just an audible voice that you hear. It can be through people. It can be through nature. But this is a Bible study. That's like a whole nother video. But it's amazing that I look back now to all the things that I've done, and I'm like, whoa, my purpose was in there. Whoa, my purpose was in there. Whoa, my purpose was in there. And so I don't know, it caused me to have something click for me, and I was like, "Yep, this is it, God. I hear you, Lima Charlie, loud and clear. This is my purpose. I understand." Um, a few areas, and I know I keep saying it still stands, y'all. If I keep saying liking just tell me. Let me know how many times I said liking in this video, because I am working on it. It is hard, but I'm working on it. So, with that being said, a few areas in my life where I was chasing my passion. And there's three main areas in my life where I'd say I was chasing my passion over my purpose, but my purpose still shined through in those things where I was chasing my passion. So I would say the first one to start, where I could just remember, I guess you could say, like, me being shaped into the person I am today, would be cheerleading. So when I was younger, I'm gonna be honest, I can't remember the ages. When I was younger, I used to do cheerleading up until high school. That's when I stopped cheer. And in that, um, so when I was a cheerleader, I can remember always, and I know you're gonna say, like, cheerleader, of course you took the lead, but I can always remember from the time I was younger to now, always taking, like, the lead. And I remember when I was young and cheering for Pee Wee football. And I remember I was up there coming up with cheers, and I was telling my coach, let's do this one. I came up with this cheer. We're going to do it, blase, blase, right? And we ended up doing the cheer. I was like, yep, I came up with that. And I remember in middle school when we were at cheer camp. And I remember we were doing practice and we were trying to figure out our routine for the first day of school or the first game. And I remember the guy that was training us, and he was like, you over there. And he was pointing at me. He was like, you, I want you at the front of the pyramid. I was like, what? Excuse me? And he was like, yep, right there in the middle, smack dab. And I'm not going to question, I'm a child. So I was like, okay. And I remember times in cheer where my cheer coach, she would be like, yeah, you see Cailinn, she's putting in work, and she's not just practicing here, she's practicing outside of here. And she would just use me as an example of somebody taking initiative. And I feel like that's kind of like the start. But then again, I was a child, and I was like, that didn't really mean anything to me, because it didn't click for me. I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, I stretch at home, cool. um Another area I would say is karate. So now we're moving on to karate, because when I started high school, because my dad has done many martial arts, he has a black belt in a few, um, and I always asked him if he could teach me. And he'd always hit me with that answer, "Oh, you're not yet. Oh, you're not yet ready. Oh, you're not yet." And I'd be like, "Come on now, just teach me." So I remember it was about to be the first week of school, and I remember like yesterday, I was sitting in the back seat. I was laid across it, knocked out. My mom was in the front seat. My dad was driving. We were passing by Kroger's in Mansfield, and my dad was like, "Cailinn, do you want to do cheer or karate? Because you can't do both." And I don't know why. I was knocked out in the back seat, but I heard that. I woke up and I was like, oh, this is a lot of pressure. Karate. So after that, I got signed up for karate, and that started that kind of started it didn't start my leadership journey, but it is where a lot of molding came through. And so started karate. I remember being in karate, and I don't know why, but I was progressing pretty fast. And I remember everybody was always so impressed, and I'm like, I'm just I'm just doing what you told me to do. um and so I remember in karate, I ended up skipping a couple belts, and then which I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think it was normal, but I didn't think that that was such a big accomplishment. And then I remember because of me progressing fast, I ended up being in that awkward stage where I'm a certain age at a certain belt, and being a certain age at a certain belt, there's nobody in my age bracket at that belt. So I remember when it came to competitions and sparring and stuff, I would literally never have anybody in my class to compete against. And so I remember when I think it was my first outer dojo tournament. And I remember I had nobody to compete against. I was like, I don't remember how old I was. I just know that at my age and at my belt, there was nobody to compete against. And so I remember they were, instead of them saying, oh, yeah, no, you can't compete, they were like, oh, just compete in a class higher. And I said, in a what? And they said, yeah, just compete with I was a whole orange belt and they're telling me to compete with purple belts. I was like, excuse me? They're going to beat me. Like, they're more advanced than I am. That's not fair. And they were like, no, you can do it. And I'm like, no, no, I can't. And they're like, you can do it. You're going to do it. They didn't give me a choice. I ended up doing it. They didn't give me a choice. I like to think that it was my choice. No, there was no options. All right. No options at all. I was going to compete in the class higher than me. So competed in classes higher than me multiple times because like I said, there was never anybody in my class, my age bracket, my belt bracket. There was never anybody in my class to compete against. So I've always been competing with people higher belts than me. And the crazy thing is that I would win the competition. I would win. And I was just like, so with that happening, that brought a lot of attention. They're like, whoa, that's Hulk Smash over there. Or Cailinn Smash. They used to call me Cailinn Smash. I remember when I got my first pair of gloves and I wrote Cailinn Smash on it. Good times. But yeah, that brought a lot of attention. And me, I only know as much as I've been taught. So, they're over here and they're like, whoa, like she's really good and she's progressing so fast. And I'm just like, I'm just doing what y'all told me to do. And so I remember when it was time for me to compete for my black belt. Or not compete, sorry. We don't compete for black. When it was time for me to graduate for my black belt. And I remember to backtrack a little bit. So when I ended up starting to senpai. So I was a student teacher because I was still underage, but I ended up becoming a senpai and teaching little dragons karate. And so I remember when I was graduating from my black belt, I specifically remember going into Hanshi's office and cried and I was like, Hanshi, I'm not ready to graduate. I'm not good enough. I don't know why y'all think I should do it. I'm going to be teaching kids and they're going to have to look up to me and I'm not good enough and I'm not ready. And he was just looking at me. He was like, are you done? I was like, yeah. He's like, I don't understand why you don't believe in yourself. Like you're really good, you're really dedicated, you take it very seriously. I don't know why you don't believe in yourself. And we ended up just having a talk and the talk went well. And so after that, I still had doubts in my mind, but I still went through the graduation process. And I say process because it is a process. It's not just the day that y'all see us graduate is not, yeah, no. There's all, yeah, not even about to go through it all. But yeah, I had a lot of doubts, but I still went through the process and I graduated and I got my black belt. So I'm I never understood. It's like my whole life I've always had people believe in me and I didn't believe in myself. And that leads me to the army because I had joined the army and I was like, ooh, yeah, I'm about to join the army. I'm about to be G.I. Jane. I'm about to be a boss chick. And I'm about to, these men ain't gonna know what came for them, right? So I joined the army. I was what you would call high speed. Progressed really fast. Again, in the army, um, another place where my leadership, which is my purpose, shine through. And I remember in the army, I was able to get wavered to the next rank. I remember in basic training, I had favor with my drill sergeant. And I remember when I was in basic training and they made me PG. And I was PG for a long time, um, long standing PG. And I remember one time my female drill sergeant, because I had two, I had a senior drill sergeant and then my other drill sergeant. And my female drill sergeant, she was like, I need to fire you. I don't know what I'm going to fire for you yet for, but you've been PG for too long. I'm going to find something. So it was the most random thing that she found and she fired me for it. But I didn't take it to heart because I was just like, yeah. But I remember at the end of my, I remember on my graduation, legit, my senior drill sergeant, he chased me down and he gave me, because this was his last year being a drill sergeant. We were his last cycle. And so he chased me down. He took the medallion off of his hat and he wrote a message on the inside and he gave it to me. And I was like, thank you. But then at the same time, I was like, dang, does this mean I'm going to be a drill sergeant? Don't pass that on to me. I don't want it. So that's basic training. So then I get to my unit and then again I'm like progressing really fast. I don't know. I do what I'm told. It legit I don't know. I just do what I'm told and then, things happen. I guess that's what happens when God shows you a little favor. So I end up getting that 300 PT score. I get the deployment. Uh, I all this stuff. I'm PT stud, and this things are going great. And I when I get back from downrange, because I deployed my second year in the army. So when I got back and I came from downrange, they were like, "You're going to the board," and I said, no, I'm not. And they're like, yes, you are. And I'm like, you think I am, but I'm not. First sergeant. Respectfully, not going. Well, I told that to my platoon sergeant. He's like, oh, yeah, you're going to the board, first sergeant said. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not ready. And they're like, well, you go tell them that then. I went to first sergeant. I was like, first sergeant, I'm not going to the board. And he's like, yes, you are. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And he's like, yes, you are. I was like, okay, we'll see. Ended up going to the board. Was in the board, right? And in my mind, I was like, ooh, yeah, I'm about to embarrass this man. He made me go to the board when I wasn't ready. I told him I wasn't ready. I'm about to embarrass him, right? So here we are in the board. I'm the last person because W, freaking W. And so Sergeant Major asked, he was like, so why do you want to be a leader? He's like, why do you want to be promoted to the next rank? And I said, Sergeant Major, I don't. My leadership sees something in me that I don't see. And my sergeant major was just like, is she for real? And the crazy thing is this was his last board too, because he was about to PCS. So like he was, he had some joy. He's about to leave. He's just trying to knock this out and leave, right? But he was like, is she serious? And then he looked at, like, he was looking through my papers. He was looking at and I feel bad because my sponsor legit had talked me up. My sponsor was like, yeah, she's this, she's that, da 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 da, right? And so he was looking at my papers and he was like, he looked at my first sergeant. Is she for real? I didn't look at my first sergeant because I was being a coward, but I could see from the corner of my eye that he was pretty pissed off. Um, so they ended up making me go through the board. I ended up going through the board, did everything, answered the questions, did what I had to do. And at the end of the board, he was like, you would have passed today if you didn't say what she said at the beginning because you're an outstanding soldier. But you need to believe in yourself because there's only so much that we can believe in you. You need to see it yourself. So I ended up not passing. And when I came from the board, I went to my car and I cried because I was like, dang, I thought I was going to make a fool out of my first sergeant. I made a fool out of myself. So then I remember my first sergeant pulling me into his office and he was like, he basically talks to me about what happened. He was really, he was so pissed off. He was so pissed off, man. And so he was talking to me. He was like, why would you do that? Like, I don't understand why you don't see what we see and you're a good soldier and da 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 da. This man cried. Like, this man cried. He was like, we need more female leaders and you're the female leader that we need. And I'm just like, I'm not the one that you're looking for. It's not me. Right. And he was like, well, here's your options, right? He was like, you can either go to the battalion and push papers, or you can go to the Soldier of the Month board, and then after that, you're going to go back to the board. I was like, oh, I don't want to push papers. My whole goal was to miss out on battalion. I did not want to work at battalion. I chose my job because I did not want to sit in the office. I'm going to fall asleep. So I went to Soldier of the Month board. They made me skip the company level, but I ended up going to battalion level, new sergeant major by that time, and I ended up passing. They really liked me. I passed. I was like, oh yeah, cool. And we were all like, yeah, she passed. Woo. So then I ended up going to brigade level, and at the time I was injured, and so brigade level you have to take a PT test. Wasn't able to take the PT test, but I still went to the board. Went to the board at the brigade level, answered all their questions, did all what they said I needed to do. And they were like, whoa, like you are you got it figured out. You're an outstanding soldier. So comes time to announce who won. I didn't win, by the way. But they had came up to me and they're like, man, like you are a really good soldier. The only reason you would have won, but you didn't take the PT test. So whenever you get healed, please come back. And I was like, oh, Sergeant Major's kissing my feet. You don't see this every year. I'm just kidding. But I kind of wanted to come back, but my ankle just never healed. So never got to go back. But with that being said, by the way, I ended up making sergeant, passed the board. So after I had passed and went to brigade, I tried to skip out on the promotion board again, and my first sergeant was like, nope, we had a deal, you're going. I'm like, first sergeant, come on. He's like, papers? Is that what I hear? You want to push papers? I was like, oh, fine. So I ended up going to the board. I ended up passing. It was easy. I was like, man, I should have just did this in the first place. And I kind of feel bad because even though like I wish that I would have done it a lot sooner and believed in myself a lot sooner, because then I could have led my soldiers without being injured and they would have gotten a full me instead of just a half me. Because there was a lot of things that I couldn't do going to the field and stuff because I was on crutches. And so it's like, man, I could have impacted them fully. But the impactating, the impactating that I did do, I believe that it changed them for the better. Now, fast forward, I get out of the Army, and I had a friend from high school. We used to be best friends in high school, but then she went to college. I joined the Army. So we kind of had our own things going. Kind of, just kind of like that drift apart thing happens. It's natural. So she had introduced me to some business owners that she met in the DFW, and I ended up starting my second business. And through this business, I've had people come up to me and say like, "Wow, you're just a natural leader," and I'm just like, "Huh?" And they're like, and I'm just in my mind like, they didn't have to say that. It's kind of random too. And I don't know why, but one day I was in my car driving somewhere because that's where I spend the most of my time driving, and something just clicked. And I was like, oh my gosh, my purpose is to be a leader. And it just clicked for me. And me, I'm the type of person where I need to record myself talking to myself because I got to get it out. I'm not a writer anymore. It takes too long. I like to just say it, right? And so I recorded myself and I was like, whoa, I'm meant to be a leader, blase, blase. I didn't know it this whole time. And this whole time I've been chasing my passion, but my purpose has been shining through and right? And so found out that I was supposed to be a leader, talked to my parents, told my parents, my family, they're like, we told you. We told you you're supposed to be a leader. And so I was like, well, now I know. And so um I I just come to the realization that I've chased my passion so hard. And there's gonna be times where y'all are just chasing y'all's passion and you're just gonna be going in circles because you're just chasing something that you're not supposed to be doing. Like imagine being super good at something you're not supposed to be doing. It's such a waste of time. That's why you need to find your purpose early on so that you don't have to waste all that time in the desert, just 40 years in the desert because you're chasing your passion over your purpose. And I've I decided to live out my purpose since I have figured out that this is what I'm supposed to be doing, leading. Now, do I know specifically where? No. But do I know it's what I'm supposed to be doing? Yes. And so I've also noticed that since I started chasing my purpose head on, my growth has been fast. It's been like, whew. But I've also noticed that it's hard. It like before, I would just get stuff thrown to me without even trying. But now that I know what my purpose is and I'm chasing it intentionally, it seems a lot harder than when I wasn't even paying attention to it, which makes me feel good because I remember in every single thing that I've done prior to this, I just was never satisfied. I made the cheer squad. I was happy, but I wasn't satisfied. I graduated for I won competition. I was happy but I wasn't satisfied. I graduated for my black belt, happy but not satisfied. Joined the army, got my 300 PT score, which is what I wrote down that I want to do. Happy but not satisfied. Deployed, happy but not satisfied. um satisfied. um Made sergeant, happy but not satisfied. And so I remember in all these things where I'm like, man, like I'm doing everything that I want to do. Why am I not content? Like, why am I not satisfied? And it's not that I'm not thankful for what God has done in my life. It's just not, it's not giving me the ushy gushy, And so ever since I started chasing my purpose and the things that I've been doing in this and the accomplishments that I've been making in this, these have been so satisfying. It's like, man, I had to put in a lot of work, but oh my gosh, I'm satisfied. And so that was another thing that just made me realize that I was being good at something I wasn't supposed to be doing. Um I guess so the advice that I would leave you with is find your purpose early on. Look through the things that you've done through your life that where you're chasing your passion and see the common denominator. And honestly, that can help you find out what you're supposed to be doing. You don't want to be good at something you're not supposed to be doing. It's a waste of time. If you find that you're doing things that you've always wanted to do, that you love to do, but you're not satisfied, it's probably because you're chasing a passion and not your purpose. So, yeah, that's just something to think about. I know I went on many tangents, as I always do. You should just expect it at this point. Um, but yeah, that's all I have for you this week. Chase your purpose over passion. Don't be good at something you're not supposed to be doing. Find your purpose early on. That's all I got for y'all. Bye.